very important concept that the economy and business, seeing that that is really the foundation of everything else. Even if we have military engagements or anything like that, or political issues, without the economy, then there's nothing. No. Currently, as the Philippines opens up, and our own survey with our practitioners who we are monitoring the chambers of commerce all around the country, the recovery is coming up very fast and very strong. Hopefully, it will continue and we don't have a major surge. We expect there will be fluctuations, but not a major surge in infections or mortalities or ICU utilizations. No? Hopefully, we have seen countries recover very quickly, which includes the US and China. No? So what I want to point out is, given that this very fast recovery, not only is it on retail and expenditure and enterprises reviving, but also in investments. Vietnam, in just the last 7 months, has obtained $19 billion in investments. And the Philippines this year so far has had a 30 to 50% increase in investments over the last year. I'm talking about foreign direct investments. So how do we focus on this so that we will benefit from it? Because if we don't do it, what will happen is either the former larger conglomerates and the foreigners will be the ones to benefit from this. We have to be thinking not just about the politics. We can't think about politics because that's part of our systems and life, but we have to spend much more time on the economy, learning about the new technologies and entering these enterprises. Why we can put it aside, for instance, you know, these incidents are expected to happen. Even on the Philippine side, you know, we had the event before that we made a mistake and we shot and killed Taiwanese after pursuing them. But it's not the be-all and end-all. After a few months, we got back into normal relations with Taiwan. And they did not keep attacking the Philippines about that. No, neither did Hong Kong keep on making an issue out of something that would stop our relationship in trading with Hong Kong. China did not stop dealing with the US after the US bombed its embassy, nor Russia. So everything is back. What we need to model after is like Vietnam, which China is now the 3rd or 4th largest investor and is the biggest trading partner of Vietnam, and the same with Japan and Korea, so South Korea. So even if we have disputes, we're saying that there are many ways by which we can benefit from that relationship, and somehow it is the Philippines that keeps on focusing on incidents that are, some of them are significant and many of them are minor and many of them are being misrepresented. So what we want to say is that let's not be a front line for military confrontations of a power struggle on who should be number one. The world now does not need military conflicts. The greatest competition is in the economy and technology, and that's why the US and China are engaged in this competition, and we should not become the front line of this battle. Yes, so thank you. We can discuss in detail later on.
At the outset, I consider this Ayungin incident as one of the many incidents similar to what had happened before, and probably going to be happening in the near future, especially with the conditions that are now prevailing in the South China Sea. I view this whole situation a little bit more macro than on the micro. Although these skirmishes or these incidents affect China and the Philippines, and it is right that, of course, every time there's such a aggressive move on the part of the Chinese towards our fishermen, or in this case, towards our supply boats, the note verbal or protest by the Department of Foreign Affairs is just appropriate. Now, I don't know whether the succeeding remarks of the president was can be considered appropriate, but nevertheless, officially, we had already sent our communication, and it seems that the Department of National Defense Secretary had communicated with the Chinese ambassador. Now, like I said, this will be just one of those incidents that we will be always reacting to and bringing to fore the UNCLOS and the sometimes the arbitration ruling and so on and so forth. But there is something else that's going on that we should not be closing our eyes to, and I think George had touched on it quite a bit. And this is what's happening to the rest of the world, in particular, our neighbor Taiwan. Right now, almost every day, the Chinese government is giving out warnings that there might be war if the Taiwanese government accedes to the cajoling of the US government for it to declare independence. Over and above this, the United States is intending to arm Taiwanese government with nuclear weapons. And China has not minced its words and not made declarations that that means it will be considered a declaration of war and they will be ready. Every day there are overflights now going on from China into Taiwan as part of the warning that they are expressing with regard to the situation. Now, Taiwan is not too far from the Philippines, as you might know. And if there is anything that erupts from Taiwan, it is not too difficult to imagine that the warships that are now flying the Philippine territorial waters of America, of the United States, will be called to action. And this is the possibility, of course, that if ever such a war breaks out, the Philippines gets involved because the United States have used the Philippines as a virtual base, naval base. Now, having said that, to me, this is the context in which we should look at the conflict between China and the Philippines. The Philippines, before all of this, there has been a time when there has been bilateral negotiations, protests back and forth between China and the Philippines. But in 2012, as announced by the United States, 60% of their naval fleet, which is the biggest naval fighting force in the world, 60% of that will be brought to the Southeast Asian region. This was in 2012. It didn't take long for China to take positions against the buildup in this area of the world. While this thing was going on, we must understand that some other areas of conflict are developing in the other side of the world, which is Russia and Ukraine. And up till now, the tension in Russia and Ukraine is also building up. There seems to be a move by the Western powers, led by the United States, to, well, the word used by somebody else earlier was provocation. But the buildup is in arms and in nuclear military capability of the neighbors of those that they are perceived to be the enemies of the United States. Ukraine is being armed, and which prompted the Russia today, as of today, to start moving military personnel and getting ready for a conflict, which can erupt anytime. Because as you know, if there is some overzealous military personnel that presses the button, even if it is not by mistake, even if it is not ordered, can really start a conflagration. In the same way that I consider this Ayungin thing being done by an overzealous Chinese military personnel to start using the water cannons on us. A small incident like that can really spark something much, much bigger. We have to look at all of these things from the context of not just this, to me, understanding of what China is doing as their intention to invade the Philippines. We are being made to believe that. No, China is just asserting itself in the same as a reaction to the buildup of the US and Western powers in this part of the world. Over and above that, of course, the pretext is the defense, protection of the so-called freedom of navigation. And the case in point here is, of course, we know that Malacca Straits is the only route right now coming from the Indian Ocean to the China Sea and up north towards Europe, and covering a substantial amount of trade between many countries. Now, the Malacca Straits is not just a concern of the United States, but it is also a concern of China, because it is also the same route that China uses for its commercial vessels and its needs in the mainland China. So what I'm saying here is the Philippines must not react to these skirmishes or incidents only from the viewpoint of what we consider to be an affront against our sovereignty and our soldiers or our fishermen. We must look at this from the bigger context and how do we react to this? We seem to have been reacting to this in a very superficial and limited concept. Our reaction, we propose, should be something more positive. Since there is a preparation for war right now going on by China and the United States and the other parts of Australia included and so on, since there is a preparation for war, and it does not take genius to understand that this is going on. What is the Philippines' role in promoting peace in this whole region? Never mind the rest of the world, never mind the Ukraine-Russian border, but here in China, how do we become creative enough and move towards promoting peace rather than being pushed to side between two superpowers, the United States and China? To propose that the Philippines take a more creative role,
yes,
and using the influence it has with the ASEAN in order to act as one unit, the ASEAN unit, so that collectively we can promote peace rather than allow a a conflict between China and the United States to start here in our region.
Thank you, Professor Bush. We will talk more about those creative options and alternatives for our country in a bit, no?